We're back, people, and today we're breaking down film on Matthew Butler, Miami Dolphins defensive tackle. And I want to go over, I think he made the initial 53-man roster. Uh, because I think it was a surprise to some people. And I think what it comes down to with him is they decided to keep six instead of five. And I think the reasoning behind that ends up being because Dolphins are putting such a reliance on their front seven that they are going to want to have extra bodies up there, keep people fresh, keep people in rotation, because that's how you're going to win games is by stopping the run, creating constant pressure with your defensive front. So I think that's the reason by keeping an extra body. And then I think they kept a person like Butler as one. They wanted some veteran experience because three of those six are rookies. That's something to look at with that. He has some experience playing in game, which is good. And then if you look at your backups, I think this is the key. You look at the backups on the team, and you got Zeke Biggers, who's one. Zeke Biggers is a guy who can play as like a defensive end, but he is a developmental guy and a guy I don't think they trust to get early snaps. The other two will be like Benito Jones, Jordan Phillips, Kenneth Grant. Those guys will be like rotating in and out. Mostly interior guys from like playing 1 to 3 tech. Grant can play a little bit wider, but most of them would thrive either in 1 or 3 tech. Butler can play as a defensive end. He can still play interior snaps where those guys are, but he can play as like a 5 tech 4i, so he gives you those types of reps. And also, most of those guys known for their run defense. Butler, very like juiced up pass rusher. Not a great run defender, like actually pretty poor as a run defender, but like he's probably your second best pass rusher on the interior, like after Sealer as of right now. I think Grant will pass him, but like he gives you pass rush reps, so like he's just a complementary to what they have, and can create an impact. And we know how important pass rushing will be this season. And I think they were like, hey, we wanted more pass rush from the interior. That's why I decided to keep an extra body there, and that's why I think they rolled with Butler. So like here from the 2i, you can just see the explosiveness. Once, like honestly, like 2i is not the most advantageous rushing position. You usually don't have the best angles to work with. The fact that he goes from a 2i, like kind of widens to end up being like looking as a 3 tech, which is like a good spot to rush from, like at least technique wise. Gets on this guard, and just explosive off the ball. He's got juice. He does a really good job combining like power and explosiveness as a pass rusher. You're gonna see some run defense reps. It's not beautiful, but man, he's got pop in his hand. Look at the pop here. Throw 63 off bounds. Basically opens those hips with that power. Combine speed to power. Get to the inside and get a pressure on the QB and force the errant throw. That one almost gets intercepted off a tipped pass. So some pass rush juice on the inside. This also showed up on his regular season tape. That's why I kind of liked the addition when we first watched him from the Raiders. I'm like, oh, there's some real pass rush potential there. And like it did show in the preseason. He didn't finish with like a sack, but had a lot of nice pressures, like quick pressures too, that he would show. And also just like scheme fit wise, like he's able to exchange gaps, as you'll see in some other of these plays. That makes sense. Here, doing some stuff, crossing face. Like if they want to work like stunts or blitzes to his side, where he has to, slant to a different gap, he's got that quickness to do that. So line up as a 3 tech in that B gap. He's able to slant to this A gap, kind of, open up the space for a linebacker blitzing, and then still like work through contact pretty nicely there. Create a push on this right guard, even though like his initial plan wasn't really to actually win to the inside. It's more just to create space for your linebacker. He's still able to push through this, get there. Not quite able to finish, but he gets that first initial pressure on the quarterback. Very solid rep there. Like his ability to create either just like one-on-one or help create for others in like, he needs to slant to a different gap exchange. Those things are very important to what the Miami Dolphins like to accomplish up front, because they're going to create a lot of pressure up front with like just their 4, and like their edges will win their one-on-ones, but they're going to be running a ton of stunts. That's what Weaver loves to do, and I think that's what they really value out of Weaver, and like that's why they kept like the extra body there instead of maybe keeping an extra body edge to keep someone like a Murphy or McClendon when they already had a lot of that stuff in the room with the starters. Butler kind of complements that. Like look at this. Like look at him where like he is aligned as the 3 tech here. This B gap, even almost towards like a 4i, and the fact that he is able to exchange multiple gaps over. Like look at the quickness and the lateral quickness here to exchange from this A gap to this A gap. Basically exchange 2 gaps. Able to cross face pretty nicely there, show some fluidity, just move the initial QB off his spot constantly. Like not able to quite finish, but I know I've seen him finish before. but the quick pressures is very, very nice. And I think when you see plays like this, like imagine like he's this crash guy and still he's supposed to loop around. Like imagine this combined more with like Zach Sealer. Like you could see the potential when those guys would be on the field together because they're both able to do these types of things, move pretty well, and Butler just looking good in those areas. Like here he is as the crash guy, able to gap exchange, take the center out of the play, like does this really well, and it's working with Grant, who he would probably do this with in an actual regular season game. So as a 3 tech, he can obviously do the 3 tech stuff. He's one of the only guys that can play out as like a 5 tech. I've seen him do it on film. Didn't do it as much in the preseason, but I know that's something they will expect of him at times. Boom, cross face. I like how he sets this up too, because he doesn't just instantly knife to the inside, could make it too obvious on the right guard. He attacks upfield leverage on the guard first as he's about to engage, knife to the inside, get engaged, take the center out of the play, and now you got Grant with like a really good angle to loop. Right guard's late to it, and you're able to get that pressure in his face. He's a guy that I feel comfortable with working those stunts. Now you can keep people more fresh in a rotation, and since you do have 6 guys, you have so many people, you can just use him in a more situational way. You don't have to have him on the field in areas I think he struggles with. Here he is. One, you can see kind of the explosiveness off the ball, the speed to power. Just working this with the linebacker again, the little gap exchange with these two. So he's lined up as a 2-eye. He's crossing face of the guard, getting out into that B gap, and then Willie Gay is able to work off of that and get a full head of steam. That's something you got to be able to do to help out a player like Willie Gay, who's really effective in those areas. And then even then, Butler's still able to help collapse the pocket. In these situations, sometimes guys aren't able to collapse the pocket because you kind of lose some of that explosiveness, that power when you exchange a gap like that. You're not just running straight down the middle of a guy to push him. But he's still able to help collapse. So like say, Willie Gay forced him off a spot to the opposite side. Butler's still there to help prevent maybe other things, and that ends up leading to that interception because they got that pressure on him. So really solid job. Butler, not as many good run defense reps, but here he is versus tight end. I actually believe this is Durham Smythe too. Obviously, if he is aligned as this is where like you can see like he's aligned as like a 7 tech here, so he can play wider. And when you are in a 7 tech, you might get some one-on-ones with like a tight end, and he's obviously able to control zone versus tight end at the point of attack. Play as a 2-gapper there, get control of the situation, peek to the outside, peek to the inside, see that he's going to the outside, boom, stack, shed, he'll make that tackle with KJ Britt. That's good. And then you see like here as a 5 tech on the backside, he's going to get cut off. The guy just has a natural leverage advantage. I don't think Butler has a good feel for like run blocking schemes. Like I feel like, he doesn't have like the block recognition, like he's getting cut off. And now that he's kind of struggles to get off of it late, he just doesn't have that feel. And he gets sealed off in those situations, struggles. Here, another rep where he's playing as a 5 tech versus the run. He just takes himself out of the play. Tries to fire upfield. I think he kind of maybe thinks, like, I don't even know what he's trying to read here. He might think it's going to be a pass rush situation. He takes himself out of the gap there, so just doesn't really have that. That's like, if he was at least a decent run defender, like, he would actually be a pretty darn good player, because I actually think his pass rush ability, like, even though, we're watching preseason, I've seen his regular season pass rush film, it's pretty solid. Like, I think he's like an above average pass rusher for a D tackle. If he could play like average versus as a run defender, like I don't think he does. I think he's definitely below average. He'll have some average reps, but overall is below average. Like, man, he could actually be a pretty good player. But considering he's like your 5th, 6th guy on the roster, you can get pretty good work out of him. But like, man, he'll have some ugly reps versus the run. And then he'll have a rep like this, like on the interior, playing as a 1 tech. Not going to see a ton of this from him, but playing as a 1 tech, fire off the ball. Like, this is where he'll probably make more of an impact, when he just can get off the ball and just square someone up and use his, like, ability to control. Like, and if he knows it's a run, like, clearly he expects run quickly, and he can just get control at the point of attack there. I think sometimes he might fire off, think it's a pass, take himself out of the play, not have a great feel for it, play a little high, and then get taken out of the play by the offensive lineman. But then he'll have some reps like that are decent. Butler here, you can see the explosiveness off the ball, end up on the ground, but you can just see, I want to show this for like that first step. Like, he fires off the ball and clearly shows some juice. Even when it doesn't work out, he's able to still split 2 people there, working through contact, rip up underneath. Look how he rips up hard. Like, look what happens to this this center's left arm. Look at him just completely throw that up, work through the contact, ends up going to the ground. but he's able to create some instant penetration that I think would translate in future plays. And also, they're bringing a blitz, like quarterback panics. That's one of the interceptions that happens. Just making some solid plays. Here's the hustle play. This was the screen. Remember that we've seen this play before. The Kenneth Grant hustle play on the screen. Butler also shows similar hustle, and he's farther away from hit. Like, look at this. That's another reason that I could see him, making, that sort of effort can be the difference maker. And I think, when they first added Butler, he was someone I expected to fight for a roster spot, probably with Zeke Biggers. I think when, preseason, then more guys got added with, like, Dickerson. But then as, like, it went on, I saw where Butler was rotated in. He was playing early. I was like, okay, so Butler actually does have a chance. I still think it's going to be Zeke Biggers over him. And then they decided to keep 6. And it does make sense in my mind why they did that. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Butler at least make an impact as a pass rusher in his situational reps and struggle as a run defender in some reps too. But as a 5th, 6th defensive tackle, there's worse guys to have. So if you guys are doing it, comment and subscribe.